Finally, we have the big box right here. And these probably have some of the most important games that my wife and I absolutely love. So anyway, let's get started. First game we have is a game that came out very late in the PlayStation 1 lifespan. But it's Final Fantasy Origins, Final Fantasy 1, and Final Fantasy 2. I bought this game very late into the PS1 lifespan. I think, I bought it, the moment it came out. And Final Fantasy 1 I have completed on this compilation. Final Fantasy 2 I have beaten it once. I haven't beaten it the second time. You do have to beat each game twice, to fully complete it. But I think this game is a great reminder to show us, just basically how Final Fantasy started and how these two games were responsible for probably helping create one of the greatest RPG franchises of all time. Final Fantasy will always remain a timeless classic, regardless if you played on the original NES or if you play one of its many remakes. And I really enjoyed this game as well. I didn't have any issues, with the remastered, the original Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 2, however, didn't fare so well. It tells a competent enough story, but the battle system in that game is just simply completely broken. And overall, I didn't really enjoy the game that much. It felt like a total chore to actually finish. But I don't think my wife has played any of the remastered editions of both these games. But this was a game I actually purchased myself. So, if you really want to go back to Final Fantasy's humble beginnings, I definitely recommend you check this title out. So the next game we have, guys, is a game that is considered to be, one of the rarest games, on the PlayStation 1. It demands a very high price tag, but if people are willing to look beyond the rarity and the value of this game, you'll actually discover that it is a really great game, and it's probably one of the strongest entries in the entire franchise. And this is actually my wife's copy of this game, and that's Suicune 2. Now, to some of the most hardcore Suicune fans, Suicune 2 is known as probably one of the best games in the entire series and probably has one of the most memorable RPG villains of all time. Now, this was a game that my wife has beaten and completed, but I haven't played it myself. In all honesty, the only Suicune game I played, was Suicune 1. But a lot of people tell me like the storyline for this game is beyond amazing. Literally one of the strongest entries in the PS1 jrpg library. And my wife absolutely adores this game. Just a quick little side story on this game. The Suicune series was mostly ignored, especially back in the PlayStation 1 days, because, when Final Fantasy 7 came out, a lot of people were demanding a lot of Squaresoft stuff at the time. And the Suicune series went largely ignored until Suicune 3 came out, for the PS2. And once people played Suicune 3 for the PS2, and, you get a lot of people that say that the game is great, and then you have other people that say that the game is horrible, but the game has Suicune 3 has a really big twist in it, because all the Suicune games are all interconnected in one way or another. And then when people started to see, how good Suicune 3 was, then they discovered, oh wow, there's like 2 other titles, and then that's when the demand for the first 2 games started to hit. And because of that, a lot of people didn't buy Suicune 2, when it was first released. And now it's a highly sought after game, especially, to a lot of RPG players. So even though I haven't played this game myself, I do look forward to playing it when I have a chance to do so. Next game we have is my wife's favorite game of all time, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, this is a game I have beaten. Haven't completed, so I will eventually have to get back to it. But this game, for me, had one of the most frustrating boss battles I've ever had to endure in my entire life, and that was against Velius. You know, there's a lot of debate with a lot of gamers talking about, you know, what's the most, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, with regards to what is the best strategy RPG, you know, for the PS1. And, you know, there's a lot of debate if it's either Final Fantasy Tactics or, you know, Tactics Ogre. From what I played of this game, I've actually enjoyed it, but it was a very steep learning curve for me. But understanding the game and knowing how it works, I can't wait to actually get at this a second time. You know, before I even moved out west to work, one game we used to play, you know, with some of my friends is that I had another friend who was really big into Final Fantasy Tactics, and we used to play a game called Lego Tactics, using I guess Final Fantasy character-based statistics. So we used to build worlds using Lego, and we used to, you know, play Final Fantasy Tactics, you know, on a Lego plane, and that was actually a lot of fun, especially back in the day. Definitely just one of those timeless classics, you know, for the PS1, and it is my wife's favorite game of all time. So. Alright, the next game, guys, is a game that I've already briefly mentioned, and it is the only game I have beaten in this series, and that's the original Suicune. Now, this is in a modified case because, strangely enough, we actually didn't own this game, and I actually found this game in a single case at an EB game store when they were getting rid of their PS1 titles. So I have played this game, and I've actually really enjoyed it. I really need to get around to playing the other games in the Suicune series. You know, I just love everything this game had to offer. It has an incredible story. I kind of feel bad, you know, a lot of people didn't get into this game, you know, when it was first released, even though, as far as I know, I think it was one of the first JRPGs to actually be released for the PS1, because I'm just reading the back there and it says 1996. So, you know, obviously if you want to start playing the Suicune series, you know, this is a great place to start. But eventually, you know, I am going to have to replace this game and actually get the actual two-level case version. Even though it only has one disc, the actual original case for this is actually one of those double cases, you know, that's used for games like Xenogears and Final Fantasy VII. Alright, the next games, guys, are two compilation games. And the first one is Final Fantasy Chronicles, which has both Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. Both games I have beaten, but I haven't completed both of them yet. You know, a lot of people didn't really like a lot of these compilations just because of the load times. But, you know, you have to understand, you know, back in the PS1 days, you know, to get two quality SNES RPGs, you know, in technically one game, even though it's two discs, you know, was quite a pleasure in itself. Both games are incredibly well done, and they will stand the test of time, and they're absolutely SNES classics. So if you ever get a chance to come across a compilation like this, I definitely suggest you do. Chrono Trigger, literally known as either the best RPG ever released for the SNES, and probably to most people, probably one of the best RPGs of all time. You know, game-wise, I prefer Chrono Trigger over Chrono Cross, but Chrono Cross, obviously, I think has a more superior soundtrack, and I think it kind of tugs at the heart a bit more. Because I do prefer Final Fantasy VI over Chrono Trigger, but Chrono Trigger is just one of those timeless classics. Final Fantasy IV, this was my actual first exposure to Final Fantasy IV. I wish I had a chance to play it when it was known as Final Fantasy II on the SNES. And I've actually played this game, and I've actually beaten it, but I still need to go back and complete the game. You know, it's definitely a solid entry in the Final Fantasy franchise. It's you know, out of the 13 games sorry, technically 14 games that have been released in the Final Fantasy main canon. I do feel, you know, Final Fantasy IV is definitely one of the top tier Final Fantasies, but I really need to go back at the game and, you know, give it another try. And these are two games that my wife has beaten on this disc as well, because this is actually her original copy. And talking about Final Fantasy VI, guys, so we have the Final Fantasy Anthology, the Collector's Package, which has Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI. I haven't played Final Fantasy V. My wife has, and she's beaten it. I do look forward to playing it because a lot of people tell me it's a really, really good RPG. It's probably one of the more lighthearted entries in the Final Fantasy series, but according to what she's telling me, it's actually a pretty competent Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy VI, I'm sure a lot of people already know, favorite Final Fantasy game of all time, and I doubt that will ever change. The game is just massive, and it's beautiful, and it literally has one of the best RPG villains of all time. And you know, usually to the most hardcore Final Fantasy fans, you know, a lot of times Final Fantasy VI is their favorite game. And you know, the same thing still applied. A lot of people had a lot of problems with the loading times with this game, but I don't really have a problem with loading times. So I had no issues playing Final Fantasy VI on this compilation package. To me, it was still just as enjoyable as the SNES version. So if you ever come across it, guys, I definitely recommend giving it a try. And this is my wife's copy of this game as well. Now, next two games, guys, are both Enix games. This was a game I bought before the video game collecting craze really took off, and I'm really grateful I got it when I did, because I think I bought this in 2005 because I kept just hearing so many great things about it, and I haven't completed the game, but I haven't beaten it either. I've only gotten a few hours into it. It's just like it seems like every time I try to play this, something always comes up that takes me away from it. And it's not surprising, especially to me, that I own this game, since I literally have this character's picture posted all over my profile, and that is Valkyrie Profile. For me, I wish there was more I could say about this game, but I haven't played a lot of it. I really wish I did. My wife hasn't even played it before, but I think this is a game I know I'm going to love when I eventually get around to actually playing it. You know, it's literally an jrpg on a time limit. And it just has a lot of things that I really love, you know, when I play a JRPG game. It has a lot of memorable characters, it has really awesome music, it has over-the-top attacks, and from what I played so far, it's a very serious and a very depressing storyline. There's really not a lot of humor in this game, and it's a very, very dark storyline. I have played and beaten Valkyrie Profile 2 for the PS2, and technically that game for the PS2 is a prequel, so it's even gotten me more excited to finally give this one a try. I did do my research on this game, however, so I do know you have to play it twice on medium difficulty and on hard difficulty to do everything that the game has to offer, and that the game has 3 different endings. So I can't wait to give this game a try, you know, when I get around to it. The next game, guys, is literally a game that strikes fear into any video game completionist. This is another game that I have not played yet. I'm almost scared to play it. My wife has played it and she's beaten it, which is beyond amazing, because this game has a legacy in itself. And that game is Star Ocean: The Second Story. Now, one of the things you have to understand about Star Ocean: The Second Story is that one of the things that strikes fear into me, especially for being a video game completionist, is that this game has over 80 endings. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to play the game 80 times, but there's a lot to do in this game, and I mean a lot. and Hybrid Angel Zero. You can't really complete this game to 100%. You can't finish the voice thing, as far as I know, the voice painting. But when I eventually get around to playing this, I will do everything that the PS1 version offers. I actually have the PSP remake as well. But besides having 80 endings and the fact that it's a really tough game to complete, another legacy that this game has is that it has two of the toughest RPG boss battles of all time. One is against Indalecio without his limiter, and he's incredibly hard. Even when my wife beat him with his limiter on, she even had a hard time trying to beat him. I think it took her like 15 times to actually beat the boss. And from what I've heard, if you decide to fight him without his limiter, he's 10 times harder. And you got her hard bosses. I forget what she's called. I don't know if she's called the Ephriel Queen or the Iceria Queen, but she's another really tough battle in this game as well. I will eventually get around to playing this because as a video game completionist, I do love a challenge. But this game can be very daunting when it comes to completing it, and I guess it's probably one of the reasons why I haven't even started it yet. And the final two games, guys, one is a game that I briefly played. It's my wife's original copy. Now she has actually played the game and she's actually beaten it. I actually can't wait to actually play the game because I hear a lot of great things about it. And that game is Vagrant Story. Now from what I played of Vagrant Story, the battle system is literally like Parasite Eve is, except guns. You know, you're using swords. A lot of people tell me that this game has a very deep and a very dark storyline. I really can't wait to actually give this game a try. And it actually has a lot to do, especially if you want to complete the game. But this was just another masterpiece of an RPG that was released, you know, during Square's golden age, as I would consider it. Like I said, like my wife loves this game more than I do, but she's actually beaten the game. I have not, but it's another one of those games I actually can't wait to play. And the final game, guys, is really a game that needs no introduction. It is my original copy. I've already said my piece about it, and there's really not much more for me to say, especially with how much this game means to me. It is my original copy. It's probably the first game that has actually stayed with me right from the beginning right to the very end, and that game is Xenogears. My favorite game of all time. I doubt anything will ever change that. A lot of people keep teasing me and saying that, you know, eventually they're going to release a Xenogears 2. And a lot of people that know me well, they know that, you know, I have really no interest in, you know, keeping up with the with the current trends in gaming right now. You know, while a lot of people have their Xbox Ones and PS4s and Wii U's, I'm kind of staying put, you know, right now. I have no interest to keep up with the current state of video games. And, you know, I get a lot of my friends joking around, well, you know, you'll jump back into it, you know, if they ever release a Xenogears 2, but even though, as much as I love this game, I do accept that, you know, it is a flawed game, but to me, it's the perfect game. And I don't want a sequel. I think the game stands fine just on its own. I wouldn't even want to see a HD remake. It wouldn't surprise me if they did it, but a HD remake of this game is not going to have the same impact that it had on me when I played this when I seen this played for the first time back in the late 1990s. So anyway, guys, these are the PS1 games that mean the most to my wife and I, and they'll always stay in these little boxes because they show us a time in which a lot of JRPGs, you know, were nothing but pure quality. And just by me showing the games that I've showed you, it really shows you the amount of quality games that the PlayStation 1 was fortunate enough to release. And even though some of these games I haven't had the chance to play yet, I believe that all these games are timeless classics, and they'll always play a very important part, you know, in helping me determine the types of video games I like. And that's pretty much it, guys. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode of The Completionist. So anyway, guys, take care, and I wish you nothing but the best. Later.